All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Nihal. Welcome to the EPIC conference. I'm a physician at North General Hospital and an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. And today I'll be chairing this second session of the EPIC conference on healthcare and health service delivery. Before we begin today, I'd just like to note the EPIC conference sessions are taking place on Zoom from 12 to 1 p.m. Um, And during the week until June the 4th, we encourage you to attend all the sessions. Check out the Age Well Epic Conference webpage to download the Epic Conference program, which includes details on each challenge area. I will begin today's session with my short presentation on the healthcare and health service delivery challenge area. Then we will enjoy two research presentations with a 5-minute Q&A following each presenter, followed by a moving the dial presentation featuring a supported startup program. And finally, we will close the session with a general Q&A. I'm excited to introduce today's EPIC conference presenters. Peter Zhao and Jim Mann will present Exploring What Matters, personalized dementia care app on symptoms and quality of life in older adults with dementia. This will be followed by Farnaz Kubasi and Robert Hirsch, who will present on using Glenrose grocery game for mild cognitive impairment detection in older adults. Finally, Nirtal Shah will highlight how Curivate is moving the dial by improving quality of life for Canada's older adults and caregivers. All attendees are encouraged to use the Q&A box to ask questions, leave a comment or a question, and upvote questions that others have submitted. We also welcome you to use the chat. The session is being recorded and will be available for playback. Links to playback will be posted on the EPIC conference webpage and the Age Well YouTube channel. Should you choose, you can enable closed captioning for Zoom on the Zoom toolbar. Without further ado, let's begin with a short introduction to the challenge area of healthcare and health service delivery. All right. So how can AI help the older adults? So being in geriatric medicine, I often wonder about this question because a lot of the work that I do is at the intersection of AI and geriatric medicine. And AI has been moving at a very fast pace since the introduction of ChatGPT in 2023. And the question now becomes, how do we take this rapid technology diffusion and use it to help our older adults? And there are a couple of ways where I've been exploring ways to do that, which would fit within the theme of health service and health service delivery. I think coming back to our profession and the job that we do, um, it's trying to incorporate AI in a way that is humane and in a way that is human-centered. And that's why I have the graphic up there of somebody holding someone's hand. Even no matter what technology we use, we should always remember that at the back end of the technology and the front end is a human being who is being served or helping serve somebody. In clinics now, I think a lot of you are familiar with this. These are called AI scribes. So these are computer programs which sit on your computer, and when a clinician or a service provider talks to a patient, it records the conversation and then gives us the note after. And now there's actually patient-facing AI scribes too, where they can actually take the conversation and have a summary made for themselves, which is helpful. And I find this has been very helpful for my elderly population because now I can look at them in the eyes again. I can be human and I can be present for them while the AI scribe is doing the work of taking down all the notes. I can see when somebody is quite sad about something that they're experiencing. I can be there for them in that moment and feel that emotion with them. And so, in that way, I have found AI scribes to actually give me a bit of that humanity back when I'm practicing medicine with my patients, which has been really amazing. AI chatbots are another interesting dimension that is being explored right now with our elderly population. And the aim here is to see how it can be used to provide them either with information that they need or with support that they might need. So, for example, support for caregivers of patients experiencing dementia and things like that. And so, this is something else that has been very interesting in the geriatric field. There was actually a very interesting study that came out of a country in the Far East, and I forget the name exactly of the country, apologize, but it actually showed an uptake in vaccinations in the elderly when they were using a chatbot for motivational interviewing, for example. And so these are some of the ways where we can utilize AI chatbots in our elderly population. One way that we're actually using AI chatbots for our trainees actually is for medical training. So here we have Mr. Thompson. This is an AI chatbot that we made at North York General. And Mr. Thompson has been having a lot of falls recently, and he's not sure why. And so we use this scenario where the learner who is writing questions on the left and Mr. Thompson, who is the AI chatbot, who is providing answers on the learner's answers are questions are on the right in blue, and the chatbot's answers are on the left in gray. And it helps our students kind of go through a geriatric interview and figure out kind of why somebody might be experiencing a particular geriatric syndrome. And we found this to be quite useful for their training. Their ratings have been quite high for this chatbot, and it really engages them in their learning. And so this is one of the other ways in which we've been trying to enhance geriatric care, not through a patient-facing chatbot itself, but through using the chatbot to educate trainees about how to approach the older patient, older adult, and geriatric medicine in general. Another interesting avenue that we're looking at, so if you've ever been admitted to the hospital, you can see everybody's quite busy there, trying to do a whole lot of things during the day. And one of the busy pain points for physicians in hospital is on the day of discharge when they're trying to discharge a patient so they can go home to a supportive environment or to another care facility or something like that. And it's a very important point because that's where care transitions happen. And an element of the care transition is actually the discharge summary, where they would sit down, summarize the stay in hospital, and then send it over to other care providers. And one of the other things that we're looking at is how can AI be used to expedite that process so that physicians and other care team members are more available to go talk to the patients themselves instead of being stuck behind a computer trying to write up a note, and that takes up more time. And so this has been quite fascinating. Our early pilot studies have been showing around a 40 to 50% reduction in cognitive burden for our care team providers, and that is more time that they can spend talking to patients and family members about what has been going on in hospital. And so I hope through these examples, I've been able to show you that AI does not have to be depersonalized. AI does not have to take away the human from the equation. In fact, it can add some of our humanity back to us as we provide care for our older adult patients. All right. And so that was our preliminary introduction into our topic area today. Now we will move to our first presentation. And so for our first presentation, I'm pleased to announce or introduce rather Dr. Jim Mann and Peter Zhao. Dr. Jim Mann is a researcher living with dementia and is a strong advocate for which he received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from UBC in 2020. His focus includes technology use to benefit people with dementia living in community, long-term care, and hospitals, the meaningful and ethical engagement of people with dementia, and reducing the stigma for people living with dementia. As a recipient of numerous awards, Dr. Mann is also an impactful knowledge translator with 80 sole author and co-authored publications in respected journals, scores of presentations at major conferences, and 14 recorded podcasts and 30 webinars. Peter Zhao is an interdisciplinary researcher focused on aging, dementia care, and technology. He holds an MD and a Master of Health Leadership in Policy and is currently pursuing a PhD in an interdisciplinary graduate program in nursing and kinesiology at UBC. Peter's research explores how technology can support older adults' independence, dignity, and quality of life, with interests in gamified exercise, biosensing, mental health, and person-centered care. He is actively engaged in academic scholarship with 18 peer-reviewed publications and more than 20 presentations at national and international conferences. Since September 2025, Peter has been an AgeWell trainee and completed the Innovators of Tomorrow certificate. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Jim Mann and Peter Zhao.
Thank you very much. And I await the first slide. There we are. So, good morning, everybody. And Peter and I are going to present on what matters, which is something that we have been working on in, excuse me, in acute care and trying to improve or advance person-centered dementia care in hospitals. Next slide. So I have been in and out of emergencies in the last few years, and so certainly hospital stays, I can vouch for them being more stressful for people living with dementia, and especially in an unfamiliar situation, and especially in acute care. So, to address this, our team has developed What Matters, which is a digital app has been created with patients and families and hospital staff that to share personalized information that supports and in fact enhances person-centered care, providing a little bit of personal information is uh, ultimately just the best way to offer that care. So our presentation today will focus on the findings from the pre-intervention focus groups and interviews with staff. And I'll let Peter describe in more detail the what matters.
Okay, first we will share an
Yeah,
introduction video about what matters app. You can get a glance what this app it is.
Daddy, the What Matters companion. I'm here to show you how this app helps bring comfort, joy, and connection to people living with dementia. To start, we just log in, enter your username and password here, and ta-da! This is the resident screen. Every resident has their own personalized profile with an About Me section and a gallery full of meaningful media. For example, under About Me, you might see sections like I feel joy when I go skiing, swimming, and traveling. I play golf, tennis. These small but powerful details help caregivers and loved ones understand what brings comfort and happiness to each person. You can even filter media by tags and categories to make searching easier. Wow, that's so cute! Here's the media gallery. It contains everything that matters most to the residents. Let's take a look at what we can explore together. With Spotify, we can stream their favorite songs directly anytime they want. Want to add something new? Just tap the plus button to upload photos, videos, audios, or links. That way, families can keep memories alive and growing. When it's time to go back and choose another resident, you'll need a PIN code like 0987, or you can check the user manual. And that's what matters. More than an app, it's a bridge between families, caregivers, and the people they love. Together, we can bring comfort, spark memories, and celebrate each person's unique story.
Okay, this is the app we co-create by patient, family, and first-line staff. And then we create this app 3 years ago. And last year, we implement this app to the acute care setting in Vancouver General Hospital. And this is a controlled trial across two hospital units. And this two hospital unit, they have no idea, or they have a control group, which one is. So it's blind to both participants. And the What Matters intervention was delivered 3 times per week for 2 weeks at the sundowning time. It's from 3 to 6 p.m. And the control group at the same time accept a paper-based dementia care plan. This is me. So, and also for the outcome, we assess NPI, neuropsychiatric inventory, and call them is a quality of life scale. And we measure both scales at 3 time points from the baseline before the intervention, and 1 week, and also 2 weeks after the 6 session interventions. And then we use the repeat measure and novel analysis to examine how outcome change over time. this is the result. We can see from the two charts, we observe the reduction of the neuropsychic symptoms and the improve of the quality of life. But I think due to the sample size or some other reasons, we cannot witness some statistical significance. But you can see here the blue line is belong to the WhatMatters group. It's reduced more on the aggressive behavior, and also for the quality of life, it increased more. And we have also other findings on qualitative analysis. We have reached three themes. The theme one is enhancing person-centered care for patients with dementia. And staff describe the app help calm and distract patient and reduce boredom and support medication administration and other personal care routines. And also, this personalized family videos and photos are very meaningful for patients whose family live remotely. And staff emphasize, compared to the traditional paper-based care plan, the app can provide a greater convenience through easy access to the rich and personalized content. And the second theme is strengthen communication and relationships. Staff shares the staff act as a bridge for interaction, help initiate communication, and allow them to learn more about patients' preference, identity, and cultural background. This app were also particularly valuable for patient experience language barriers. Particular observed a great use among cultural diverse patient population. The third theme is focused on the feasibility of implementing the app in acute care. And overall, staff found the app easy to use and view is a valuable complement to existing care plan. Staff across different disciplines also observe improvement in patient aggressive behavior and note a perceived reduction in the use of antipsychotic medications. And also some barriers and facilitators have been addressed according to the app, like they want more equipment in the unit so they can accommodate different patients at the same time. And they also mentioned more continual ongoing training and orientation in the safety hurdle should be more, get them more familiar to this app. And this is the conclusion. The WhatMatters app is a promising tool in dementia care and may contribute to overall improvement in patient outcomes. And future research should involve multi-site and larger population to clarify its effectiveness. You can see in the picture, this is our next phase of this research. We already delivered this WhatMatters on the front screen of the Pepper robot. You can see the laughing face of the patient and the staff. They really like this format to deliver the WhatMatters. Okay, let's go to Dr.
And we would like to thank the Alzheimer's Society of Canada for funding this project. And the next slide. And if you want to go on the QR code for the paper that was written for the first phase of the project, and we're building on for this phase 2. And so there are the links for staying connected with Dr. Hung from the Idea Lab and Peter. And there we are at the last conference of AgeWell. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. That was an amazing presentation. What I really liked about the way you developed the app was co-design, right? So making sure that patient voice is centered, which is what I always tell people to do. And so, that's who we're serving at the end of the day. And the second thing that I really liked is still human-centered. Even though we're using technology, in a way, it's actually helping humanized care that we provide to our patients in hospitals. So my first question before I ask the Q&As is, now I'm interested, how do I use this app for my patients? Is it available
Go
on the
ahead, Peter.
Yeah, right now its app is not available on the Apple Store, but I think it's just a developing stage. But we have planned to put it on Apple Store, so staff, family, and all the patient, and also the from a different care setting like the hospital, long-term care, or community, they also can download this app, and the family can have their passcode to access this app, so they can upload the relevant videos for pictures or songs by themselves. And also this app supports the continuity of care, means the patient go from acute care, long-term care to community, and the content and the profile of the patient go with the patient at the same time. So it's more convenient. Yeah.
You guys have a really well thought out plan. Kudos to you
Yeah,
guys. So
yeah.
the first question from the Q&A is from Dolapo, who is asking, is there a reason why a child's voice is used as the voiceover in the app?
Oh yeah. It's designed by our research team. I think we do not intentionally choose a children's voice, but I think we have other projects delivered in the long-term care for the old
Yeah.
adults, and we just observed the children is really welcome in the old adults. I don't know why, but it's maybe it's in the general connection is more effective to engage the old adults. Yeah.
Actually, it's very interesting you mentioned that because, there is a model of geriatric care called intergenerational care where they try to cluster nursing homes and
Yes.
daycares together. And the back and forth between children and our older adult population is something that, we as a society don't value as much anymore, but it's actually very important to both sets of populations, for the children to see kind of, what somebody with lived experience looks like, and for the older adult just to kind of have fun with their kids again. I mean, for those of us like us, we're the sandwich generation and look at our parents interact with my kids. They're
Yes.
like children all over again. They have fun, they enjoy themselves. I can actually see the child's voice being therapeutic, just like what you mentioned. Very interesting.
Hmm.
That's fascinating. I don't know if it was an effective design choice or not, but it actually worked out. Second question here from Talia. How are you different from other memory connecting solutions out there? I'm not sure what memory connecting solutions means, but I don't know if
No,
that.
I'm not either.
Talia, could you maybe
Yeah.
clarify in the Q&A what do you mean by memory connecting solutions?
In
Let's just
some
say she
ways,
means dementia support solutions, I would think. So
oh,
maybe let's take the question that way. Yeah. So how is this different from other dementia support solutions out there?
well, I would say for one thing that it was developed. It was co-developed with people, with patients and family members and care staff, which I think has made it much more effective. And I think the results, some of which Peter went over, show that. But Peter,
Yeah. 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 And I think there's a difference between the other memory stimulation intervention and our app. I think most other memory stimulation therapy want to increase the cognitive capacity of the patient, but our app want to address some of the misconnection between the staff and the patient. It want to make the whole wear plan more fluent. Means our app also address some real clinical problem. When for example, some patient go to other people's room and he cannot follow the instruction of the nurse to get out from other people's room. So then we ask the family to record the video, so play to the patient, and patient can follow the instruction because they know this is my familiar voice.
Yeah.
So it can solve lots of clinical problem. So that's why we see some reduction in the antipsychotic drug use in the acute care setting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jim and Peter. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that presentation. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Right. Thank you.
Now we will move on to Fernaz and Robert. So Fernaz Kubasi is a rehab tech researcher with a background in occupational therapy and 12 years of clinical experience supporting individuals with neurological and neurodegenerative conditions. She completed her PhD in rehabilitation medicine at the University of Alberta, where her research focused on using game-based digital screening to detect mild cognitive impairment in older adults. Her work integrates rehabilitation, cognitive assessment, aging, and digital health innovation. She has contributed to projects involving serious games, virtual and mixed reality, smart home systems, and technology-enabled rehabilitation, with a strong focus on translating research into practical tools for clinical and community settings. Rob Hirsch is an experienced occupational therapist specializing in adult neurological rehabilitation. He practices in an outpatient setting where he supports individuals recovering from complex neurologic conditions to maximize functional independence and quality of life. Rob combines evidence based clinical expertise with a client centered approach, tailoring interventions to each person's goals and abilities. In addition to his clinical work, he serves as the occupational therapy clinical lead for the research and innovation team at Glenrose Rehabilitation Hospital, contributing to program development, advancing best practices, and supporting innovative research to improve rehabilitation outcomes across diverse patient populations. So, welcome, Fernaz and Robert. The stage is yours.
Thank you. I'll go first. I'm going to speak a little bit about sort of the genesis of this Glenrose rehabilitation grocery game. And a big part of my role is to take ideas from frontline staff and to try and put them into action. Some of those ideas are research questions, and some of those ideas are ideas related to how can we be innovative or find a technology that provides a solution. The question that our frontline staff had was, how can I work on skills related to grocery shopping for our older adults? And we have some things such as checkout, like sort of real life checkout counters, that sort of thing. But the older adults clinicians wanted something that they could give to their clients to work on skills more regularly and that they could do it in an engaging way. So we met with a outside partners for an external studio eventually, and they would come with a prototype. Clinicians and clients would try it, we'd give them feedback, and eventually they created the Glenrose grocery game, where you go through, you navigate in the app through the grocery store. You have set price lists and a grocery list, and you try and get to the checkout doing those things successfully. So that's where the game was at, and it was used as a way to, again, to work on those skills. But like all clinicians, they wanted more, and part of that more was figuring out a way. They know that this isn't grocery shopping, so it's not an accurate assessment of that, but could this be an assessment in some other way? And that is where Fernaz comes in.
Okay, can you hear me now? Thank you, Rob, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My project is about using a serious computer game, Glenrose grocery game, to detect mild cognitive impairment in a way that is more like functional, engaging, and scalable than traditional screening alone. In the next few minutes, I will highlight the problem, the game, the studies that we have done, and the main take-home messages for age tech. And I want to acknowledge Tech for Play Lab and my supervisor, Dr. Adriana Rios-Rincon, for her support during this journey. Canada's population is aging, and by 2068, almost 30% of people will be older adults. So cognitive impairments are also expected to become more common, notably dementia. Mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, is a transitional stage between typical aging and dementia, and it could affect about 17% of Canadian older adults. At this stage, people are all still independent in doing their basic activity of daily living, such as, feeding, grooming, bathing, but they may begin to struggle with more complex tasks such as shopping, money management, medication management, and so on. These subtle early changes are important because they may signal increased risk of further decline, and early identification of mild cognitive impairment matters as it allows for earlier support, monitoring, and intervention. Traditional paper-based tools like Montreal Cognitive Assessment and Quick MCI are useful for cognitive screening, but they are often human resource demanding and may not fully capture real-world cognition. Serious computer games, the games that are designed for purposes beyond entertainment, can collect objective performance data while the person completes a meaningful task. They may feel less stressful, more engaging, and can support objective measurements and repeated monitoring over time. My project tested whether the shorter version of Glenrose grocery game could support cognitive screening. Basically, this game had 52 levels, doing some occupational therapy-based task analysis and discussion with my committee. We just selected 6 levels that provide optimized challenge. They require player to understand the shopping list, navigate the store, choose the correct items, manage budget and time, and adapt when the list changes. My work was organized as 3 connected studies. Study 1 made the construct explicit. What task and subtask and cognitive demands are involved during gameplay, and how does gameplay feel in real time? And study 2 evaluated the feasibility and concurrent validity and group differences between people with MCI and people with normal cognitive aging. And study 3 then examined whether the key game-based indicators remain associated with MCI and how the diagnostic accuracy of the model would work to detect people with MCI. Occupational therapy-based task analysis and thinking aloud process through an autoethnography research showed that the game engages attention, memory, executive function, and visuospatial skills. These are cognitive skills that are commonly affected in MCI. The gameplay also involved time pressure, mental calculation, emotional responses, and cultural and language factors. This confirmed that the game could capture functional cognition in an everyday and familiar task context. In the second study, older adults with MCI performed differently from those with typical cognition. A composite game score was developed based on the performance accuracy and the progression through game levels. Participants with MCI had lower composite scores. They took longer to complete each level and had more difficulty with money management. They also needed more support from the researcher, asking me to keep repeating the instruction of the game, and they were less likely to complete all 6 levels. This suggests that the game could capture meaningful functional differences between 2 groups. The composite score differences remain significant even after adjusting for age, education, and tech savviness. The composite scores also showed moderate to strong correlations with traditional paper-based tests such as Montreal Cognitive Assessment and Quick MCI. And this information can support the concurrent validity of the game as a cognitive screening tool. Then we moved beyond group differences, and after adjusting for demographic and environmental variables, we found that 2 game-based indicators remain associated with mild cognitive impairments: the composite score and money management ability. Participants who received the scores like the lowest scores in composite score, lower than the cutoff, were about 11 times more likely to have mild cognitive impairment. And participants with impaired money management were about 45 times more likely to have MCI. This model also achieved an excellent diagnostic accuracy area under curve corresponding to 0.95. And because the sample was small, we just got some wide confidence interval that could let us thinking that we need to interpret the results cautiously. Also, the sensitivity and specificity of the game was comparable to what we have in MoCA and QMCI. Overall, the Glenrose grocery game is promising as a complementary screening tool, not as a a standalone diagnostic tool, it can help identify older adults who may benefit from further assessment, monitoring, or referral. The next steps are larger and more. The next step is about recruiting larger and more diverse samples and do some reliability testing and external cutoff validation and do some longitudinal research to see whether the game performance, whether the game can provide consistent results over time. But our research showed that using the game as a cognitive screening tool is feasible in community settings, clinical settings, and even at homes. Thank you for listening, and I would be more than happy to have your questions.
Thank you, Fernaz and Robert. That was another excellent presentation. I'll start off with my questions because I have way too many, but I'll try to limit it to a few. So, what interface was used to play the game? Was it like an iPad or a computer screen, or how did you guys implement your solution?
We used the tablet-based version as we expected to find it more familiar for seniors comparing to like having a big monitor and at the same time it's portable, so we don't need any very high-tech devices to deliver the game.
At the
That's
hospital, we deliver it on touch screens as well, like that are quite large.
sorry, you mean like with large print and things?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, so that's again very person-centered care for our patients, a lot of who have visual impairment and things like that. And then, did you have any data on user acceptability? So, like, how did our patients find the experience? Any data on that itself?
Yeah, we collected some, field notes, and at the same time, we examined the usability of the
Hmm.
game, and the usability was quite acceptable, around 86 out of 100, which is like good to excellent for usability of a brand new technology. And based on the field notes, I found older adults very interested in doing so compared to going to a clinical setting, waiting
Yeah.
to see a healthcare professional and doing like MOCA.
Yeah. And that's what's exciting from a clinical perspective is you do get a lot of clients that when they start doing a Rudis or a MoCA or whatever screen you're doing, they just don't see the applicability and sometimes just shut off right away. Whereas this at least has a task that they're all familiar with performing.
Well, it's fascinating for me because one of the questions I ask in my memory clinic is, do you play cards? A lot of people in that generation do, or Sudoku, or any of those other games. And one of the things that's an alarm bell for me is when their loved one is like, oh, they used to play bridge every Sunday and now they can't play the game anymore. Or they used to win all the games and now they're losing all the games. And that for me is a red flag as to there might be some cognitive impairment. So it's interesting that you're testing out a game app, right? To check similar things.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you guys did such a great job that the only two comments in the Q&A say great presentation and wonderful presentation.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
actually, we just have a
It
question
seems
come
to
up
me that
now.
my
Oh, sorry.
friends are here, maybe.
So you planted some comments. Got it. Okay. So there is a question here. The game looks very interesting. Did you identify and analyze users' emotional reactions during the tests? If yes, what did you observe?
In the first study, when we conducted an autoethnography design, um, my committee members and I started doing a thinking aloud process while playing the game, and we verbalized our ideas, our emotions, our experiences. And we found that we were experiencing a roller coaster of emotions. We were kind of frustrated or stressed out when the items were not very familiar or when we had a very long shopping list to manage. But at the same time, small achievements, small successes could bring us like joy and engagement. So for the next step, if this game is supposed to be implemented in the real context as a part of like workflow of the clinicians, I would suggest studying about, doing more research and studying how emotional responses and how anxiety could change the results. At the same time, we tested the anxiety participants' experience while doing the test, MoCA, versus while playing the game. We are not done with the analysis of those data, but I'm very curious to see how anxiety as an emotional response would work in here to change the cognitive performance or the game performance.
Yeah. that makes sense. Sometimes there's overlay between the two.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Robert and Fernaz. That was amazing. Thank you so much. So next, we will move over to our Moving the Dial presentation with Nirtal Shah from Curovate. So as the founder and CEO of Curovate, Nirtal Shah leads a pioneering health tech company specializing in developing mobile health applications or apps for orthopedic rehab, including knee replacement, knee osteoarthritis, hip replacement, and anterior cruciate ligament surgery recovery. Since 2016, his vision has grown into a successful company offering subscription-based rehabilitation apps on both iOS and Android platforms. With 7 years of experience in virtual or video physical therapy delivery, Nirtal leverages digital health technology to enhance patient access, adherence, and engagement throughout the rehabilitation journey. So let's hand it over to Nirtal. Welcome, Nirtal.
Thank you, Nihal. Just share this. All right. Neil, can you see just the Curvate slide now?
Yes, I can see the Curovate slide. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much for that introduction. As Nihal said, I'm a physiotherapist and involved in digital health and CEO of Curvate. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is the problem with pre and post-operative rehabilitation, basically everything that needs to be done before major surgeries, after major surgeries, and after injuries. One of the things that's fairly well known in physiotherapy is that about 80% of our patients don't do their exercises following major injuries and surgeries. And that has huge consequences on people's lives in terms of living with pain, in terms of poor quality of life, in terms of more cost to themselves, their families, the healthcare system, et cetera. And there's a lot of these folks that are out there. So just in Canada alone, if we just look at people that have had knee replacements, hip replacements, and ACL surgeries, we're looking at about 255,000 people just in Canada. If we expand that to the three biggest English-speaking markets that we work with, US, UK, Canada, and Australia, that number is about 3 million people annually. The other thing that suggests this problem is going to continue to grow is that about 50% of people over the age of 50 in Canada are living with knee osteoarthritis right now. So what that means is these are all potentially people that may need a knee replacement in the future. So 50% of all adults over the age of 50 is a large number of people, and that stat kind of holds true for most developed countries. That there's a lot of older adults living with pain that are probably going to end up on that path of needing some form of knee or hip replacement. And the reality is that the vast majority of all this stuff happens at home. It happens at home independently by themselves and with little to no guidance. And that's the problem that Curvate is trying to solve. So what we have currently is we have a physical therapy app that is intended for the patient that is at home by themselves recovering after injury or after surgery. And I want to differentiate this from, there's actually a good question just earlier today about, kind of how is your app different? And I get this all the time, which is that there's a ton of physiotherapy apps. I'm not going to deny that. And I want to differentiate what we're doing from what other things that exist out there. The vast majority of physiotherapy apps are built for physiotherapists. And when I started this company, I had, frankly, no intention of helping physiotherapists. That's not my goal. That's not why I started this. Because physiotherapy apps basically allow a physiotherapist to prescribe exercises to a patient. And you've probably all experienced these. Basically, physiotherapist says, I want you to do these 3 exercises. They give you an app and you do the 3 exercises. I wanted it to be as independent as possible and as safe as possible for the person to do on their own. The other category of apps that exist are apps that are check-in apps that you get at hospitals all the time. So you have a surgery, the hospital provides you with an app, and this allows you to check in and talk about your pain, make sure that you have no emergencies and things like that. And those are important, but that's not at all what we're trying to do either. Our app is entirely based on physiotherapy and rehab that needs to be done at home independently. So to briefly demonstrate, here's a quick video here. So first, the person picks their injury or surgery they're recovering from, and we're going to add to this over time in terms of number of surgeries and injuries that we're covering. Then the person gets daily guided videos that kind of go at the rate and pace that they're supposed to go. It provides them with their simple things like the number of times they need to do it. And also, none of this has to be tracked on their own. This is all tracked inside of the app. All they need to do is simply watch the videos that you see here. We also found a way to measure things like measure range of motion inside the apps. The person just needs their phone and they can measure things like their knee bending and straightening. And then if they have questions, they can ask a licensed physiotherapist or book a one-on-one session with a physiotherapist to get additional guidance. We heard from people that it's very important for them to get more knowledge about how to manage some of these things through webinars and blogs, which we created. And also we learned that it's very important for them to get rewarded for all the things they do. So we have like badges and kind of achievements and things like that that we show them and display because we found that that helps people stay consistent and stick with their rehab. So to date, what we've achieved is that right now inside Curivate, somebody that subscribes to Curivate has an adherence rate of 68%. And we've tracked that since 2019. And I'm happy with that, but I think I'll only be satisfied when our adherence rate is exactly the reverse of the current in-person physiotherapy dropout rate. So once we achieve, I think 80%, I think I'll be pretty happy with that. But in-person physio, the adherence rate sits at around 20%. For our subscribers, it's around 68%. So we're already kind of helping in that area to get people to stick to their exercises on their own at home. But I'd like to keep improving that. The other thing that health apps always get criticized for is that no one uses them. And that's usually true. So if you look at major apps like things like WebMD and others that are major apps, when they've tracked the amount of time that a person uses the app per session, basically means they take their phone, they open it, they go inside, maybe they look for some information like WebMD. Oh, I'm looking up a certain diagnosis or condition. They spend some time reading it and then they leave. So that one thing is called one session or a duration of engagement. And the average for health apps is about 1.75 minutes per session. And in Curivate, again, we've been tracking this since 2019. People on average spend 30 minutes inside of our app. And I can tell you, frankly, we have no cool content or Instagram posts or anything that they're sticking around for. It is literally just exercise content. So it's refreshing to know that people are spending, ideally somewhere around 30 minutes doing their daily exercises when they utilize our app. Here's what we've done to date before we started anything, as many of the panelists have said already. We started with a needs assessment. So we interviewed patients that were at home struggling with rehab. We interviewed orthopedic surgeons and physiotherapists to try to figure out what is it that this person needs at home to recover independently. And much of that we built into the app. We have had over 70,000 downloads of our app in total. We have subscribers in 56 countries globally and fairly high rating, 4.6 out of 5 based on 600 reviews. And as it stands right now, Curivate is a revenue generating subscription-based app that is available in the App Store and Play Store. What's not on this list is we have 2 peer-reviewed publications related to the app, one related to our measurement method to show that it's actually pretty accurate compared to a physiotherapist measuring, and the other one related to the actual lived experiences of people that have used, there was a qualitative study, people that used Curivate for 8 to 12 months and kind of learning from them. And then we have a third one that is yet to be published, but in press through the Canadian Physiotherapy Journal, again, related to the lived experiences of people that have used our app for a portion of their rehabilitation. So why am I here and why am I saying all this? One of the issues that we have with Curivate is that people are finding us very, very, very late. And this graph here represents how long it is after a person's surgery or injury that they actually download and start using Curivate. And you can see here, after surgery, it takes almost 200 days, and after injury, it takes almost 400 days, a little over 400 days. And that's really late. And my hypothesis is the reason this is happening is one of 2 reasons. Either one, they've never heard of it, never heard of Curivate, so they didn't know to look for it. That's one possibility. The other is that something went wrong along the course of their rehabilitation. Maybe they had some in-person care, maybe they didn't. Maybe they were recovering, they're like, I'm doing fine, I'm walking, I'm using stairs, I'm good. And then 100, 200 days later, they're like, actually, I'm not fine, I need some more help. And they're seeking out some solution, they come across Curivate. So what I'm really looking for is kind of healthcare partners to kind of help to deploy this further to more patients at the early stages. Ideally, Curivate is starting, it would be used before a surgery even happens, so before knee replacement, before hip replacement, and we have those protocols in our app, and then continue using it after their surgery so that they can continue their journey and their rehabilitation. So that's kind of the biggest problem that we're facing sort of as a company. And I mentioned this problem because it kind of directly impacts the vision that I started Curivate with, which is to make physiotherapy accessible to everyone that needs it globally. And I plan to continue working on that vision. And I think one of the ways to do that is to partner with both research organizations and hospital organizations to kind of get this out there more broadly. And ultimately, what we're going to do beyond the list of rehabilitation that we provide right now is to expand that into other major injuries and surgeries that impact Canadians to help them access physiotherapy as well as people globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Nihal, for that amazing presentation. Very fascinating app. You already have some Q&As come up, so we can get to those. And I'll also invite all of our other presenters to come on camera, as once we're done with Nirtal's questions, we'll have a general Q&A as well. So Nirtal, your first question is, you can see a lot of thought and work went into the app. What was the business case to cover the development costs? It's from Doug Hayden.
Great question. So we're here today partially because of the original thing that kicked us off was actually an AgeWell grant. So that's what started us off. It was just an idea ruminating in my head and something that I built with a group of wonderful and talented engineering students. But it was actually the first thing that got us started was a grant from AgeWell that allowed us to expand into helping people with knee replacement, hip replacement. So that was our start, our inception. So I'm always happy to to talk for AgeWell because they kind of started things for us.
Excellent. And Isabel Lim is asking, very interesting, what do you think are the top reasons why users engage with Curivate so much more than other health apps?
I think for one, we are just trying to help them. We're not trying to do anything else. We're not trying to sell them ads. We're not trying to do anything else. Everything inside the app is intended for and came from either my brain, which is clearly limited, but also my patients' brains, where they're like, well, have you ever thought of this? You don't have this, that range of motion feature that came from my patients. They're like, man, it's great that you measure with this little ruler every time I come in, but I'd love to do that at home. I was like, well, I think that's possible with a phone. And then we figured it out. So things like that really just came from patients talking to us and saying, like, you haven't thought of this, or you didn't do this, and I need more of that. And that's still happening to this day. We get emails, we get chat messages, or we get, mean reviews. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. We should think about that.
Well, I think that's a common thread across the presentations is patient co-design. Have our
Yeah.
patient voice centered early on in the design process. And like you said, they had a revelation you had not had. And, I'm blown away. It's been 10 years for me in my day job, and I'm blown away by the insights that my patients bring me. And I still ask them,
Yeah.
what do you think is going on?
Yeah.
Or what do you think about this? And I'm just like, wow, I had not thought about that. So thank you for surfacing that. That's very important. Okay, so next question from Zarina Chan. Would you please suggest some strategy to stimulate the patients, keep up the exercise app permanently? Thanks.
Sure. I don't know if the question means broadly or through the app
I'm assuming the question is
specifically.
talking about motivation. So as you know from studies, when there's a new intervention, there's a huge uptake, and then tail end, people drop off. So like, how do you keep people engaged, I think is what they're
that is the billion-dollar question, right? Like, how do you change patient behavior? It is incredibly hard. We have tried to utilize the things that we know in mobile devices that are addictive and non-harmful in a non-harmful way. So we know there's lots of ways that mobile devices are addictive in terrible, awful ways, but we try to use some of that knowledge to say, okay, well, this is going to help a person stick with it. And one of those things is like simple, like rewards and badges and achievements, and kind of very granularly tracking that progress to say, hey, like you're at 50%, that's great. And then like, can we do a little bit more? One of the most interesting things that, again, came from a patient was we introduced a button that I thought was ridiculous and pointless that said not enough time. And that was revolutionary. So what it means is like they have a day list of exercise. That list is an hour long. And so I got lots of complaints about that. And eventually we introduced this button that said not enough time. So press it and you get like, instead of an hour, you get like 15 minutes of exercise. To me as a physiotherapist, that makes me cringe. I'm like, Like it's the knee replacement. You have to do an hour. Like that's just how it is. Uh, and it's not for humans. It's not. So what we learned is that listen, if we can get somebody to do 15 minutes of exercise, maybe in their third or second or third or fourth or fifth session, they'll do an hour. But we got to get them doing something. And that button was revolutionary for us. And it was just something that as a clinician, I cringed. I was like, no, because you're taking away evidence-based medicine. Like it has to be an hour every day, but you just have to get them in doing something. And that was one of the things that helped for us.
I love that insight because
Yeah.
oftentimes as clinician developers, we fall into the trap of evidence-based and trying to stick exactly to it. But
Yeah.
what I tell people is our patients have not read our research papers. It's like when you tell
Shockingly.
new parents read a book about parenting, I tell them your kids have not read that book. So so I love that insight because that again goes back to user-centered design and kind of, borrowing from the tech world, the good parts of how to keep people engaged with the technology. And
Yeah.
gamification is a huge one for sure. All right. So next up we have to help scale, do you see yourself implementing AI tools like AI movement tracking? Ooh, AI question. There we go. It's one wonderful
Yeah,
question.
I was going to stay away from that, but yes, it's what we're doing now. So one of the things we're doing is we're using computer vision to do three things. One, to measure range of motion. So some people struggle with, they're like, well, I can't put my phone on my knee. Like it's tough. They're after surgery. So we're implementing movement-based computer vision to measure range of motion. We want to expand that to the whole body for range of motion. The second is to analyze gait, to walking and running. For different patients. So we can actually analyze it through computer vision. And the last, which is the toughest we're working on, is to give them real-time exercise feedback. So a person squats, the computer vision watches them, and then in audio, it tells them, hey, like your left knee's caving in, your right knee's a little high, like just simple things like that. So that's what we're working on.
Very cool. And then a follow-up question from somebody else. Is it offered in multiple languages? And is it useful for those with no surgeries just as exercise?
Yeah, so the languages not yet. So we have it currently just in English, but we do plan to expand to obviously other languages. And yes, the one of the protocols which might not have shown up on the demo screen was something called knee or hip strengthening. So that's a more of a general kind of preventative thing that people are asked for that are like, well, I'm done my surgery. It's been a year. I want to do something. And so these are much like smaller tapered programs that they can continue with just for general strength.
All right. And then how do you provide feedback or corrective suggestions if the patients were not doing the exercise correctly?
So this might get into the computer vision step. So right now we do not. Right now we basically have a static video that the person follows along with at the rate and pace that they're supposed to do it, with like an older adult doing the exercise as you saw for people that have knee and hip replacements. For the computer vision portion, this is why it's tough. So we're working on different body types and shapes to figure out, well, is this person's knee caving in, or is it just because they're a different body type? So it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we hope to have something that's like will work for most humans to say, okay, this can provide accurate real-time feedback.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Nirtal. So I'm just asking our audience in our closing minutes if there's any questions for any of our other speakers, please put them in the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we've had a very good session. So we'll just wait another minute to see if there's any other questions for any of our other speakers. Okay, I think that's good enough. I think everybody's oh, do I see one here? No, that's it. So thank you everyone for joining the session today. Just a reminder that there are other sessions as well from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And they will also be recorded so you can view them on the AgeWell conference. And thank you so much for your time and attending today. We really appreciate your attendance. Have a good rest of the day.